Am I good? Yes? Good morning. We're going to talk about the distributive property today, lesson 1.4, evaluating expressions. The distributive property is a great property, and it's actually my favorite property. It can be used to help us simplify expressions. So let's just take a look at what the distributive property looks like. The distributive property says something like this. If I had a stack of $100 bills and I wanted to distribute them, I'm sure that all of you would want me to give you the whole stack. But I'm going to be really fair, and I'm going to go around the classroom, and I'm going to pass out the $100 bills one at a time. So the distributive property looks like this. A times the quantity, B plus C, equals. We're going to distribute what's outside to everything inside. And that would be AB plus AC. Now we're going to look at these terms right here. If they have the same last name or the same variable part, then they are called like terms. Like terms, one more time, like terms have the same variable part, or we could say they have the same last name. If we want to look at our first example here, and use the distributive property to rewrite the expression 7 times 49. To rewrite that using the distributive property, we might write something like this. 7 times the quantity, 50 minus 1. And the reason we chose 50 is because we all know that 7 times 50 is 350. And it's much easier if we were doing this as mental math or doing it without a calculator. So it would be 7 times 50, which is 350, minus 7 times 1, and our final answer would be 343. In example number 2, we want to rewrite using the distributive property. We must distribute everything that's outside of the parentheses to everything inside the parentheses, and then to make sure that if there are any like terms, we combine them. So let me show you example 2 step by step. Example 2. Negative 2 times the quantity, 3x squared, plus 5x plus, it's a minus 1, so let's correct that, minus 1. We're having some pen issues. Get the eraser to work. And sometimes these things just don't want to cooperate. There we go. Now we're going to use the distributive property. Negative 2 times 3x squared is a negative 6x squared. A negative 2 times 5x is a minus 10x. And a negative 2 times a negative 1 is a positive 2. So this problem is a little bit different from the one that's in your notes, so make sure you are looking at the one that I am doing. Negative 2 times 3x squared plus 5x minus 1. Look at the very end here and see if any of these terms have the same variable part. If they do, we would combine them. In this case, they cannot be simplified. If you were to look at your homework from this lesson, on this page, page 6, you are going to do 1 through 11 odds. So let's take a look at 1 and 2. 1 and 2, I'm giving you all permission to use a calculator. I'm giving you permission to use a calculator. Let's look at number 4 together. Number 4. So this is going to be rewritten as 12 times 6 minus 12 times 1/2 x. 12 times 6 is 72 minus 12 times 1/2 x would be minus 6x. Final answer. Okay, in the second part of our lesson here today, on page 7, we're going to be talking about the distributive property, and we're going to look more closely at like terms. So today our technology just wants to go all over the place, so I apologize, but we're right there now. The distributive property continued. Remember, let's take some definitions here, what a term is. So a term could be a variable by itself, the product of a number and a variable. It could be a positive or negative. It could be the product of something like negative 3xy. It could be the quotient of 1/3 xyz, or it could just be a number. Remember, when looking at a term such as 4x squared, the number in front of the variable is called the coefficient. The x squared is our variable part. So if we wanted to simplify an expression, such as 4 times the quantity a squared plus 3ab minus ab, the first thing we're going to do is multiply 4 times a squared, which gives us 4a squared, plus 4 times 3ab, which gives us 12ab, minus ab. Now we've gone ahead and put a 1 in front of the ab. Remember, when there is no coefficient in front of a variable, there is one of them. Now we want to look for like terms. So we're going to start with the 4a squared term. We do not see anything in this expression that has the same last name as a squared. So he's going to become our line leader. I move to my second term, which has a last name or a variable part of AB. My third term also has a variable part of AB. 12AB minus 1AB are like terms, which mean they can be combined. 12AB minus 1AB is 11AB, and my final answer is 4a squared plus 11ab. So tonight, what you're going to do is you're going to look at some examples and you're going to simplify expressions. Remember, we can only simplify them if they have the same variable part or the same last name. So let's look at number 2 from your homework this evening. Number 2 says 3x squared plus 2x squared. I want you to realize that 3x squared is the same thing as saying 3 times x plus x, and 2x squared is the same thing as saying 2 times x times x. X squared is x times x. These two are like terms because they have the same last name, and your final answer here would be 5x squared. So let's just review that we make sure that we always simplify. So look at our rules one more time, and they are in your notes on page 7. I just want to reiterate them. Number 1, use the distributive property. Number 2, combine like terms. Another name for like terms is same last name. And then number 3, simplify. Always make sure it's in simplest form. So I hope you all have a blessed day, and that concludes our lesson for today.